Let's start this list with probably the most controversial change in a while, the freeze spell. Before, this card used to scale on how long it froze for per upgrade. However, this became problematic when the card was used at the top of ladder, seeing as it was unbalanced when compared to every other card up there. This meant that it couldn't at all be balanced to tournament standards, and hence became a problematic card. The creative decision here was to give it a damaging effect, just like how normal spells upgrade, and personally, I enjoy how the new freeze spell works. With the ability to kill bats and skeletons, and the option to play a zap or a snowball with it to kill minions, it's an interesting card concept that's much better than the original in my opinion. A lot of people believe that it is too strong currently, and I would probably agree. However, the great thing about the rework is the fact that Supercell can easily alter how the card works now. It can have a damage nerf or simply a time nerf. They've set up the groundwork for these changes to take place. And into another controversy, Royal Giant getting a rework recently too. A load of people are probably going to hate me for this one, however I can't not agree with the change to make RG viable again. It now does 60% extra damage, but it needs to walk a ton closer to the tower in order to shoot. This means it is a higher skill cap card, because you're less likely to get a connection by spamming him at the river. It brought such a card back into competitive viability, although it still only has a 4% usage rate. Either way, I'm a fan of this change. No card should be dead at tournament standards just because it's decent on ladder, as shown with Freeze, and this change did just that. He's a very unique win condition, beating the likes of Golem and Expo, but losing to things like Giant. These are matchups that no other win condition really has, and it's to do with him being the only tank win condition that attacks from range. It spices up the game, and gives us more possible answers if Golem or Expo run rampant in the metagame. Just as a side note, I still disagree with the state of Royal Giant on ladder, but at least this change bumps up his usage rates in challenges. Minion Horde, everyone's favourite card, the be-all and end-all of so many types of pushers. This card has such extreme DPS, doesn't get one-shot by a ton of units, and also flies, making it insane against all ground units. What are the best counters to this card? Well, Wizard, trash, Witch, trash, Arrows, trash, Executioner, trash, Fire Spirit, trash, and you get the picture. Horde is just one of those cards that's a pain to deal with, and you're most likely not running a counter. So the rework to this, delaying the time that the full DPS actually takes to come into effect. This was the correct move in my opinion, because nerfing the stats would have caused collateral damage onto the default minion card, which is in a fine state of balancing. This nerf doesn't do too much to the minions, because there are only 3, but heavily upsets the Horde of 6. Even if you have a hard counter to Horde, such as Arrows, the card can drop in and take out the majority of your push before you have the time to react. Such a card is extremely volatile, and sways a ton of matchups if you happen to find yourself without an answer. I'm going back a little while here, but remember when Balloon's death damage was rather poor? Well, Supercell went above and beyond here to give Balloon a 105% buff. We rarely see numbers like that in balancing, however it was almost certainly deserved. The Balloon's old death damage would only kill Spear Goblins and Fire Spirits in terms of air attacking units. Now it takes out the likes of Bats, Archers, Minions, Dark Girls, Princesses, and Rascal Girls too. That's a lot more versatility and value that you can obtain with this card. It makes that previous list of counters turn into just soft counters because they'll have 0 counterattacking potential. This grants the Balloon some actual value for 5 elixir, assuming that it doesn't reach the tower. It makes the card such a less risky play, which is important for a card that could become extremely OP. This buff even created synergies with a Lava Hound and Balloon combo. People will often distract the Balloon in an attempt to kill off that first, but this will cause the defending units to potentially die before getting to chip down the Lava Hound. And finally, my favourite ever change to this list is probably the quickest one for me to explain, the spell Crown Tower damage rework. Before this, spells used to do 40% damage to Crown Towers and 100% to troops. This rework saw that percentage lowered to 35%, meaning that you'd be doing less chip damage for every spell spent. This was because of the spell cycle deck that became heavily into the meta, and Supercell were not a fan. They instantly took to balancing and made spells less effective, and this is all because it led to pretty boring gameplay. The one you're watching right now is probably not the most entertaining, and that's because all I have to do is constantly defend and look for any spell value that I can find. There aren't too many troop-free-troop interactions, and that's what makes the game boring to watch. Overall, I'm glad they ended up killing off this deck. Anyways, those were my top 5 favourite or most controversial or just overall best balance changes ever. There were obviously a ton to choose from, but a lot of them don't really do too much in the way of changing up the game. Let me know your top ones in the comment section below, or simply respond in the poll that I'll put in the top right. Hope you enjoyed today's video, but apart from that, peace.